Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from Delta CX. We're a full service CX and UX agency. And welcome to our once monthly early office hours. You know it's early because I'm still waking up and my hair is wet. So good morning. This is just Be Who You Are channel. This is, we don't bother pretending we're someone we're not over here. So this is where I take your questions live for up to an hour. If there aren't any questions, we'll just end early, but I'll stick around at least for the first 10 minutes and see if anybody joins and asks any questions. You are welcome to ask questions in the LinkedIn chat, in the YouTube chat, and also with our secret anonymous question asking thing, deltacx.link/ask. You can ask a question and put your name on it. You can ask a question anonymously, so I'm not yelling out your name. Totally up to you. We do not have any questions sent in ahead of time for today's episode, so I will just start whenever someone shows up and has a question. And again, we do the early office hours once a month to try to accommodate people in other time zones. Yes, that's a light behind me. Good morning, Charlene. In other time zones, I know that when I do things at 6:30 p.m. Italy time, that could be great for Europe and the Americas and some other time zones, but is not great for people particularly east of me. So we are live. This is my Diet Raspberry Lemonade, hashtag not sponsored. And there will be exciting moments like me drinking lemonade until someone has a question, because I don't have any questions. Good morning, Buji. I hope I got your name correct. Everybody knows I'm bad at names. I just don't know how to pronounce them, but hopefully that was close enough to not insult anyone. Guten Morgen to you as well. Zainab Sadat. Neat. Janani, good morning, or good evening in Australia. I think you are plus 10 to me right now, 6 p.m. there. So hi, everybody west of me or in my time zone or close enough, as I'm getting German and UK and Australia. So this is Ask Me Anything. I'm happy to take any questions on any subject at all. We've never said no to a question, so I'm here for you. And again, we only do this once a month. On the third Tuesday of each month, there is the office hours happening in this time slot. Otherwise, every Tuesday I do it at 6:30 p.m. Italy time, which is great for many time zones, but certainly not parts of Asia. I know. It's really late in India. It's ridiculously late in Australia. Forget about New Zealand, off the charts. So apologies to those. So here we are, and nobody sent in questions ahead of time. I do collect them. You can send in questions 24 hours a day to deltacx.link/ask, and I save them and hold them close and dearly. So that's it. So I'm just here to answer your questions, but I don't have any questions yet. My hair is still drying. You can all join at 6:30 p.m. Italy time to see how it ended up. Good morning, Pratik. Well, it's morning for me. It's just after 10 a.m. So, in fact, I didn't even remember I was doing this at first. I was chatting with my boyfriend. We'd like chat for an hour every morning. We just chat. And today we were talking about why workshops are evil. And we just got to talking, and all of a sudden he holds up his phone and it says 9:52. And I'm like, oh, I'm going live in 8 minutes. Maybe I should turn on my computer. Okay, we've got our first question. It's a nice one. Thank you, Pratik. I love how often we don't get repeat questions. So this is a great one. Pratik asks over in LinkedIn, thanks for joining us in LinkedIn, but remember you can also subscribe here on YouTube and hang out with us in the YouTube channel. So join me there. Good morning, Maisha. How are you doing? I'm sleepy. I'm a little sleepy and I'm suffering with spring allergies. How are you doing? So Pratik asks how to balance between user and business goals. It's a surprisingly complicated question because if you've got CX or UX running through your blood, you're like, why are business goals over here and user goals are over here and I have to pick one? Like, why aren't they closer together? And I think that's really some of the secret of where we have to push what we do, is that it would be so much easier to fight for user goals if they looked anything like business goals. Now, which one of these do you think is more likely to change? The user's not going to change what they need or expect from us. The business has to adapt for what we learn that users want from us. Now, Agile says do it. Agile says that we welcome change even late in the game, even if it changes product requirements or the product itself. Agile Manifesto principle too. So baked into Agile is a willingness to change. That's the whole point of the word Agile. We are agile. We can shift if we need to. But it doesn't happen at a lot of companies. They say, these are our business goals. We have to do this. And it's like, but people want this. Now we have to find, as you said, the balance. And sometimes that's hard. They want completely different things, especially if marketing sneaks in and wants to measure what I would say are the wrong things. Like, yeah, let's see if we can get people to stay on pages longer. People don't want to stay on pages longer. People want to stay on pages shorter, get stuff done, and get out of there. So one thing that I'm trying to get people to remind businesses and companies and stakeholders of is the business goals and strategies must change to be closer to the user goals. Otherwise, very often these look like two islands that are never going to meet. So, you know, and in my talks now, I'm also saying, you hear so much UX isn't speaking the business's language. And I say, okay, but who's speaking the customer's language other than us? It's just us. Everybody's speaking the business language except us. But nobody's speaking the customer's language except us. So I don't have that easy, short answer on how you balance these. It's also going to depend on what the goals are. If the business goals are reasonable, like, let's sell more stuff. Okay, many people want to buy more stuff. That's a reasonable goal. How can we make that happen so that both people are happy? And of course, we would want to do it without tricks and dark patterns and sneaky things and bad design. And then we can make the business happy with more sales and hopefully customers happy by buying more things that they wanted. So sometimes business goals are close, and sometimes they're really far away. So it's hard for me to answer that question. Pratik has followed up and said, to find a sweet spot, I push for A/B testing in these scenarios, backed with our qualitative and quantitative research. Please let me know if that's the correct approach. Well, again, without knowing more about the project more specifically, and you don't have to share because this is public, I don't necessarily know if that's the right approach. And so, I do believe, let's just say in general, I think you're on the right track. I believe you have to do qualitative research first to understand who people are, what are they trying to do, what's their tasks, what do they need, what's not working for them. Then you have to architect and interaction design for that. And then you want to test it, make it better. Now it's ready to go out to the public. At that point, an A/B test can make sense. But you sometimes also want to follow that up with qualitative research, because if A wins, why did it win? What was B missing? Where did B get it wrong? I wish we could know that. That would be qualitative information that would help us make something even better. What about, what if B wins? Why? What if there's a C that's even better than both of these that we didn't think of because we fell in love with B? So I try to make sure that people are staying curious and continuing to look for those qualitative answers. Oh, I see we have an anonymous question coming in. Those qualitative answers. Oh, thank you, human. Hold on, let's check you want it answered for this show. Okay, you do. I'm going to copy and paste that in to anonymous person. So Pratik, I would say in general, you might be on the right track. I think you have some good ideas here. And, but in general, I would have to know a lot more about your project to be able to say, oh gosh, you should do this. Like, I don't know enough, and you don't have to tell me, but I do think that that's a generally good idea. And we're doing something like this in a project we're doing now, where it's trying to get people to buy more on an e-commerce website. Sorry, just dealing with the new question. So we are starting with huge research so that we know people's, again, tasks, processes, decision points, where we're likely to make or break this experience. Sorry, I've got the window open. You'll get some road noise. And then we're going to be designing a new landing page, architecting and designing a new landing page. We're going to actually do 2 landing pages. The company is then going to ABC test them. We're then going to watch Hotjar videos, not sponsored, to see if we can determine what might be going right or wrong with our B and C ideas as they're out there live as an experiment. And then we'll do another round of revisions. So could there be more qualitative in there? Absolutely. But for trying to go really fast and balance that qualitative and quant, that's what we're doing. So we're still in the middle of it. I can't tell you how it ended up, but I do think your idea to start with qual and later A/B test it or do follow-up qual is a good idea. So thanks for that. So let's get to some other questions. This is the long question that's just come in anonymously. So thank you, anonymous person. I'm going to read this exactly as it came in, so hopefully I won't mess it up. Hi, Debbie. In episode 111, which was last night, I think, you predicted that CX will become more and more academically, this says taught, maybe you mean tight. Do you think programs will change into proper CX masters, including a multidisciplinary, good morning, multidisciplinary strategic mix of knowledge, also available for people with various study or career backgrounds, such as marketing? Or do you think they will remain traditional masters to be obtained after a similar bachelor's or experience, such as previous studies in psychology? I've studied marketing, and while looking for a research master's rich in psychology or human behavior, I realized it's pretty much impossible to enter without previous knowledge, at least here in the EU. Thank you for taking the time and answer and putting your expertise out there. This channel literally opened my eyes. Oh no, your eyes were glued closed, literally. Well, thank you for that. So there's a lot of questions built into this question, so I'm going to take a nice long time to answer it because I don't have any other questions. So if you do have a question, please put it in the chat room. You can also use deltacx.link/ask, which is how this one came in. And you're always welcome to ask a follow-up question to someone else's question. Doesn't have to be your question. This is as close to a conversation as we can get with me talking and you typing. So let's start with the first part. The first question that I hear in there is, do I think programs will change into a proper CX master's, including a multidisciplinary strategic mix of knowledge? Yes. I do believe that. I didn't say that last night because I didn't think of it, but you're totally right. Now that I hear you say that, I do think that, and I'll try to remember to say that more often. I do think that. I think it's going to be important to not just have learned this narrow path to something. It's going to be something where we welcome more of that multidisciplinary approach. And I think that's Don Norman's approach as well, as he tries to redefine CX and UX education. He calls it design education. But to me, there's so much more to CX and UX than designing. Yeah, I think the multidisciplinary strategic mix, totally. Yes, I hope so, and I think it should. I'm not seeing a lot of that yet. And even Don Norman says a lot of the education out there is still what he calls studio work. You know, draw this thing, design this thing, make this document, and it's not as much of what you're talking about. So I think he sees it going more in that direction, and so do I. Also available for people with various study or career background because you come from marketing. It's actually already true. I don't know if it's that much in the EU, but I have found that nearly every master's degree expects a bachelor's degree, but they don't care what it's in. I have a bachelor's in music, and I have started, 3 UX masters and dumped all of them because I hated them? Man, they were terrible. There's a lot of bad programs out there. The websites look great. The people you talk to are great. Then you start doing it, and you're like, wow, this sucks. So I've dropped out of a few of them, but my point is I've been accepted to them. Without having a bachelor's in psychology or something relevant, I have a bachelor's in music that I got in 1993, which means, yes, I'm older than all of you. So number one, I don't think most masters, in fact, that's part of the reason I dropped out of some of the masters I started was because week one was, what is UX? Or what is HCI? And my thought was, for a master's degree? Isn't that bachelor's degree stuff? And now we're at the master's level? And all these schools said to me, well, we assume that many people taking this master's are career transitioners, so we have to start with what is UX. And I'm like, tell them to go get a bachelor's first if that's where you're starting your degree. Charlene says, when I did my master's, there were people from all different backgrounds. Yeah. So I would say right now, it is true. Keep looking. I don't know about the EU, but keep looking at other programs. You can also look at American programs if you're comfortable speaking American English. But that's already out there. So, but again, I'm having a hard time finding any master's degree program that I like. One of the masters that I started was in the EU, and it was week 1. What is HCI? Read this article about what it is. Now, that might be great for someone transitioning in, but for me doing this for over 20 years, it felt like, really? That's week 1? I mean, so I instead decided to do an MBA, a master's in business, and I've got a few months left. I'm almost done. Week 1 was not what is business. Week 1 was not what do businesses look like. Week 1 was not how do we business. They assumed you knew crap about business and that you were probably already coming with some work experience or some previous study. To me, that's a master's degree. So let me see if I think there's another question here. It's pretty much impossible to enter without previous knowledge. I think you can't enter a master's degree without a bachelor's degree, but I think most schools don't care what your bachelor's was in, but it's going to depend on the program. I would probably agree that a master's, more specifically in psychology, is looking for a bachelor's in psychology. But a lot of these masters in HCI and things relating to UX. And again, some of these really suck. I don't think they're looking for that bachelor's in psychology, but you will have to have a bachelor's in something. You can't just jump into a master's. Charlene says they did ask for a portfolio, but I'm not sure if it has to be related to design, UX, or art. And again, I didn't go through that. I decided to go for an MBA because where I've been going in a lot of my work, even though I do CX and UX work day to day, I'm trying to let companies know that I'm more strategic and that I can be business oriented and that I can bring customer centricity and CX into the business. So I thought an MBA would make sense for me, for people who still believe it's meaningful. So, anonymous person, I don't think it's as bad as you've made it sound. You'll just have to do a little bit more digging for good programs, and you may or may not end up with perhaps an American program, because I think there is a much greater range of choices. The downside is that their prices are much higher. The degrees in the EU are very affordable, in my opinion, but I'm used to America, where a degree is 30,000 euros. That's off the charts. Okay, so hopefully that helps. If you are here and you have a follow-up question, please do ask it either in the chat room or anonymously. I'm happy to take questions in either place and from everybody. So we've got another question from Pratik over in LinkedIn. And Pratik says, how to prioritize multiple problems? Any ideas around prioritization would be helpful, as I get lots of problems to solve in a short amount of time. I do have something for you. So in my book, I created what I call the Delta CX Decision Matrix. And basically, it's a prioritization framework. You can find it on my website, deltacx.com, and then go to models. I think I've got something on my website that says models, and look for Delta CX Decision Matrix. The Delta CX Decision Matrix, let me pull it up. Maybe I can share my screen and talk through it. I do have a whole episode on it. I did an episode on Decision Matrix. Hold on, let me find it, and I'll give you my episode number. Because then you can go into the live stream podcasts playlist, and you can look for Delta CX Decision Matrix. Episode 11. Ooh, that's old. That's really old. Well, try it out. I haven't seen it lately. I hope I said something that still makes sense a year and a half later, but episode 11 is the Delta CX Decision Matrix. And let me also pull it up on my screen, and we'll take a look at it together a little bit. Hold on. And I see Janani's got a question. How to approach UX at NFP. Can you tell me what you mean by NFP? Hello, Surajit. I hope you're doing well. So let me quickly show my screen. Here's my screen. And here it is again. Here's my screen. Here's my website, Delta CX Models Decision Matrix. So basically, when it comes to prioritizing things, I like to look at 4 parameters. Does this match any of the business's strategies or goals? And by how much? So you give this a score and you end up with a score. And this is to help us not prioritize what I call stakeholder ego projects or things somebody thinks they would like. Oh, not for profit. Thank you. Does this project or feature match a strategy or goal that we have, or does it seem kind of thrown in or an ego project? Next is number of people affected. Is this something that's going to affect a lot of people or every customer, or is this something we're building just for a few customers? Sometimes we end up deprioritizing things that aren't for a larger portion of our customer base. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but you can decide how to weight this based on how many customers there are. Next is anything on the list particularly urgent or severe. A good way to tell that would be, are we getting a lot of trouble tickets on it, or calls or emails? Are we getting bad ratings that reference this particular problem? That might make this particular feature or fix or problem more urgent or severe, so you'd give that a higher score. And then finally, I find cost to reverse so important, I say double the score to add extra weight to the score you've given it. And the idea is, then this is just an estimate. It's a scale of 0 to 5, so it's kind of a guess. What would it cost our company to fix this if we got it wrong? What would it cost our company if we rushed it out, didn't do this right, had to undo it or fix it later? Is this kind of a small thing that would be easy to fix or change or undo later? Then it gets a low score. Is this kind of a big important thing that would be expensive or time consuming or big trouble for our company in the public eye to fix or undo later? Then it gets a higher score. And ultimately, you end up with 4 things that are scored 0 to 5. The second thing, you double the score because it's very, to me, it's more highly weighted. So you end up with a score between 0 and 25. And at that point, there's a little bit more on this page, but at that point, you could basically say, okay, I'm going to look at the higher scored things first because they seem to be higher priority. So that's just one technique, but I would say if you Google prioritization matrix, you'll find some other approaches that other people have, and I say pick and choose what you like, make up your own, whatever works for you. But some people add in like technical feasibility. We should weigh how technically feasible this is to do. I have to admit, I don't always look at that first because I'm more concerned about these other parameters. So you'll see different ways to measure it, and you can use them or combine them or make up your own. Hello, Anasita from Romania. Good morning. There you go. I hope that helps you with prioritizing problems. I also know that I have a very sensitive microphone, and I hope it is not picking up my stomach growling. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to put Janani's question into my file, and then we'll take a look at answering it. And let's take a look. Here we go. Pratik says, that's really helpful. Thanks for explaining it so well. Thank you. Madalena's here. We include cost to build in our spreadsheet as well. Right, but sometimes I don't know the cost to build until I have explained the feature to engineering, or we have wireframes. Sometimes you don't even know until then. So while I think that is a good thing to add into the matrix, sometimes you don't know that until later. So I try to use my decision matrix for, I don't know yet how technically feasible these things are. I don't know yet what they cost us to build. I'm just going to go with these 4 criteria. So that's why I'm saying there are definitely other criteria that are good and that you could definitely take into consideration. And you can take out any of mine that you feel don't work for your company or project. This is totally fluid. So Janani says, let's put it up on the screen because we're in YouTube. Hello. Hi, Debbie. I'm working on a project with a not-for-profit. I now know what that means. Thanks, everybody. And a lot of what the organization is concerned with is net benefit for society as a whole. User research is always looked at with the lens of collective good. Any tips on how to approach UX at a nonprofit? So there was a second half of that question over here. Click this button. So how do we approach UX at a not-for-profit? Now, first I have to say, I haven't done that. So I can give you some ideas, but these ideas are technically guesses because I haven't done this. So I can say, oh, let me tell you about the time I did this. I think I've only done one project for a nonprofit, and that was a credit counseling service. Believe it or not, there was a nonprofit credit counseling service in San Francisco who would help people who were in financial trouble get some tools and information and help them do better financial planning so they could hopefully avoid bankruptcy. So that's going to help an individual, and hopefully it helps a community, but it may or may not be the social good or collective good that some people are imagining from the point of view of other nonprofits. So just disclaimer, I've not done a lot of that type of work. So I think one of the first questions that I would ask myself is, what do we perceive as good for the community or good for society? Because I find that varies. And if you're not sure if that varies, just go turn on the news, the news from America, because half the country thinks society should do this and half the country thinks society should do this. And the two are complete opposites. So I think the first thing is we have to agree on what is that good that we're trying to create? And you might say, well, okay, we know that. But I'm saying just in case, because we don't want to guess what's good for people. You know, in episode 108, when we made fun of design thinking, at the end of the episode, we found a place in, I think, the country of Tanzania or the province of Tanzania that was going to use design thinking to improve sanitation and sewers. And of course, on the surface, it sounds wacky and ridiculous and like you don't need design thinking for that. But they talked about how they were going to go out into communities and see what's happening with sanitation now. Now, of course, you don't need design thinking for that. You need critical thinking for that. But you want to make sure that you have a good baseline understanding of what's really happening for the people on the ground. And you're not accidentally playing the savior who says, oh, here's what these people need, but it's disconnected from what they actually need. You know, like if I can say something a little bit strong and opinionated and blunt, when we read our history books and I find that countries went into other countries and gave them religion, and I think they probably didn't need religion, they probably needed food and water and maybe better education and some farming equipment. Like they didn't need religion. So I always just tell people, check yourself and make sure that what you think is good for these communities or society really is. And you can aim a lot of research at that. So again, I don't have good expertise here. It might be good to try to bring in someone who's worked with more nonprofits and have them do an episode and talk about some of their approach to that. But I think what you have to do is make sure you are closely connected with the people in that community, that you have researched with a lot of them, not 2, not 4, not 6.5. You need to really research with a lot of these people and continually test and pilot with them and not accidentally run into the, well, we have empathy, so this looks like it's going to work. This is where empathy is going to be your enemy, because you're going to accidentally assume you understand these people's lives and worlds probably better than you do. No offense. That's not meant to say you're bad at this or you're not doing the right research. There's just only so much about other people's lives we can really know and understand. And therefore, some of that empathy isn't really empathy. So maybe it's sympathy. So that, Janani, that's what I'm starting with. What do you think? Am I close? Am I headed in the right direction? I'm sorry if I don't have the exact answer you might be looking for, because I haven't done a lot of nonprofit work, but that's some of the things that I would be careful about, is to make sure, you know, we're seeing this a lot, especially in America, now that people are having some fresh conversations about racism and marginalized groups and communities that are in trouble and tend to receive less benefits than other communities. And I think the thing I'm hearing over and over again is you don't really know these communities. You think you do. You walked out into the community. You ran a questionnaire. You don't really know them. So that would be my general advice. But again, I recognize it's quite general. Please ask follow-up questions. I want to make sure I'm anywhere near what you were shooting for, and I will water down my lemonade. Make your lemonade last longer by watering it down. Hashtag not sponsored. Janani says, thanks, Debbie. The point you made about agreeing on what collective good means resonates completely. Super. We also hear this a lot in the disability community because there's always somebody who comes out and says, oh, I've made these things for disabled people, but it's never what disabled people wanted for themselves. Or rarely, I shouldn't say never. It's rarely what disabled people wanted for themselves, and it's often what non-disabled people want for disabled people. You might have seen the big controversy a few weeks or so ago when two men, I think in Germany, invented someone for women, not someone, I'm so sleepy, invented something for women's periods. And everyone was like, no one needed this. This was like for men pretended women needed this and invented it and got funding on some TV show or something. So we just have to be careful that we are doing the right research and looking at the right things. And how am I on a mailing list in French? I can't even tell what language that is. Now I think it's Portuguese. Oh well, hard to tell. Spam, spam, spam. Anyway, I hope that helps. Good luck. Let's move to Surojit's question. I hope I pronounced your name okay. I always apologize for my name pronunciations. And the question's in LinkedIn, and it says, my question would be how to create a portfolio without compromising the sensitive data of the organization or client I'm working for. Sensitive data would be business goals, USP of product. Thank you. I think I do have a video on this. Remember, if you ever have a question for me, you're welcome to ask it here, but also go to YouTube, type in Delta CX, and then type a couple of keywords from your question, like portfolios. I think I do have a video on this in my perspectives playlist where I'm wearing this shirt actually. And my perspectives videos are mostly 5 minutes or shorter where I answer common questions. So especially on non-office hours days, please, I've got hundreds of hours. Literally, that's not an exaggeration. I have hundreds of hours of content on the YouTube channel. It's there for free, no ads. If you get ads, tell me because I turn them off. And I have lots of answers to lots of questions. So typically with a portfolio piece, there's kind of three levels of confidentiality. There's things that aren't confidential at all because they were live, people can see them, and you can speak to what you did and what you made. You can't always speak to all the behind the scenes, but you can show it and you can talk about it because it was live and everybody saw it. It's not a secret. The second level is, this is technically confidential, but it's also really generic. Nobody would know if I took off the names and the logos and the colors and I scrubbed it, as we call it. Nobody would know who this is. So for example, in my portfolio, I have an actual prototype I made for a bank. It was technically a confidential project, but it's a bank website. And once I took their name off it and their logo and their stuff, it could be any bank. There's really nothing special about it. There was nothing disruptive. There was nothing innovative. It was just a bank website. But because I had done something really cool in the prototype, I show it in my portfolio to show my prototyping skills. So with that, you can scrub it, you can make it anonymous, and that way people can see your work, but they won't know which company it was. And if the work is generic enough where it's like, wow, that could kind of be any bank or that could be any e-commerce website, you can get away with that. The third level would be highly confidential, especially something that never went live and was kind of innovative or fresh or different or disruptive, something the company really would see as information they're looking to protect. In that case, I don't show that pretty much at all. I definitely won't put it up on a website or in a public portfolio, and sometimes I won't even show it in a private interview. The problem is if you take something that's highly confidential and really private and really innovative or disruptive and not live yet, and you show it in an interview, you might think you're telling a good story about your work, but you're teaching the company that when you're looking for your next job, you're going to tell their secrets. So you don't want to do it because it's the wrong thing to do, and you don't want to do it because it can make you look bad. So without knowing about exactly what you're trying to do, you have to decide if there's any pieces of this that are generic enough. So someone I'm coaching just did this. She redid a bunch of her wireframes to take off all of the company's identifying marks, any slogans or logos or phone number or email. She took off a lot of the words, and just to show some of her work. And I think that's going to be fine, because then you get the opportunity to tell the story. Remember, a lot of your portfolio should be storytelling. So how much of that story can you tell, making this company more anonymous or, general or generic for their industry? Does that work? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if it does work, that might be an idea. So I hope that helps. Let me know if you have a follow-up question. Happy to take it. Just watching how my hair is drying and realizing it's going to do this today. It's going to make a heart shape, and there's nothing I can do about it. That is the shape of my hair today, everybody. Tune in at 6:30 to see that it didn't get better. It's coming in on my face. It's going to be like a 1970s haircut that looks like this. Any other questions? This is Office Hours Ask Me Anything, though it's early in the morning, so my hair is drying. There's no extra charge for you getting to watch my hair dry. That's the exciting part. That is free for you, my gift to you. And you can ask your questions live in the chat room. You can also ask them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at deltacx.link/ask. Happy to take all the questions. What's for breakfast? Or where you are, what's for lunch? Or where Janani is, what's for dinner? Oh my God, we have the whole world covered today. So I normally stay until we run out of questions, or until all the questions are answered, or until we run out of time. So if there aren't any more questions, I can certainly wrap up for today. But if you do have a question, I'll give you a couple more minutes to ask it so that we can wrap it up. I have this new countdown that will count down 2 minutes and then play a gong. And so if we don't have questions in the next 2 minutes, maybe we'll wrap up. But if we do have questions, of course, I'll stay and answer them. And then we'll do this all again in 8 hours? 8 hours, I think. Okay, Pratik's got a question. I'm going to let the countdown run anyway because it's got a fun gong sound at the end, and I don't know how to stop my own countdown. So Pratik asks over in LinkedIn, how big sample size is enough for qualitative research? Super question, because people read a lot of articles and they misunderstand the articles, they get them wrong, and they think, oh, we just need 2 people, 4 people, 6 people. The rule of thumb that I have heard is that the best sample size for qualitative research is 8 to 12 people from each customer type or group or persona. So if you have 4 customer types that you're looking to research with, then hypothetically, you would be trying to meet 4 times 8 to 4 times 12. Some people say, ooh, I don't know if I have time or budget for that. I'll do 6. You can kind of get away with 6. I try to do 8 or more. We just did a research project that we're working on now. We had 4 groups and we met 27 people. I don't think it exactly came out even, but we shot so we had 6, 7, or 8 from each group. So I would say 8 to 12 for each group, and that way you're getting a good variation across people. If you ask 2, 3, 4 people, sometimes, here's my gong sound. Sometimes you just get outliers, weirdos, the end of the bell curve. Me, I'm always at the end of the bell curve. I don't do what everybody else does. So sometimes you get some weirdos, and sometimes it might be too few people to really start seeing all of the key patterns emerging. So typically you want to go at least 6, and I try to shoot for 8 or sometimes a little bit more. And again, that's not 8 total, that's 6, 8, 12 of each type of person. So for example, for our last project, our 4 types were business to business and business to consumer. But then we broke those each into 2 groups, which is how we ended up with 4. And it was people who've been on our client's site before and people who've never been on our client's site before. That way we got some perspectives from people who had some experience using this system before, and then we got some perspectives from people who'd never seen it before and were seeing it for the first time, and we got to see their honest reactions to it. Now, we did a project last year where we did 71 people. I'm not joking. It was 6 groups of people, 8 to 12 each, and yeah, 6 groups of people, 8 to 12 each. And that's how we ended up with 71 because somebody didn't show up. So that's the way that we normally do it. Yes, it does mean that some of these numbers are high and you're meeting a lot of people. But if you really want to do this right, that's the way to go. You don't just want to meet one business to business person, one business to consumer person, or 2 of them. It really takes a handful of people to start seeing the patterns, the commonalities, the biggest pain points. Even if only one person has a pain point, I might make a note of it in the report, but it's a lot stronger when you go, and here's the video clip montage of 6 people who really hate this thing. Instead of here's one person we found who doesn't like it. I hope that helps. Unati says, do you have any preference for clients? If yes, what do you look for in them? Oh, what a super question, and I've never been asked that before. That's a great one. So Delta CX is my agency. We do lots of different CX and UX projects. My preference for clients is anybody who knows they need what we do and will give us the time and budget we need to do it and doesn't want me to cut out research. I said no to 2 projects this year that would have been good projects, but both of them asked me to skimp on or cut out the research and just guess at the end, just make us some screens or just come up with our information architecture. And I was like, without research, you're paying me to guess. And so far, 100% of clients who paid me to guess and then tested or researched it later were angry at me that I didn't guess better. So we want to do research-driven work. That means I am usually turning down jobs or clients who don't want us to do any research beforehand. Sometimes we have to do a short version of research, but again, sometimes we're doing 71 people, 27 people. The project for which we're doing 27 people, when we're done, we're going to make a landing page. It's going to be the best landing page ever, because we're going to build it based on what we understand about people's workflows, decision-making processes, preferences, what they liked or hated about the client's current site, what they liked or hated about the competitor sites. We're going to have so much fantastic information, we should end up making a pretty powerful landing page. But we're going to get there a bit of a long way. And I'm glad that our client wants us to take that route, to be able to make something like a landing page full of knowledge, full of good concepts, full of data, full of qualitative data. So for me, my clients are anybody who wants us to play to our strengths and do what we do best. We're good guessers, but we would much rather do these things based on good research. So pretty much all of my projects start with research. When they don't start with research, I call them web design. And I usually partner in that case with my boyfriend on them because he's a WordPress guy. So if somebody just wants a little web page stuff, sure, we'll make your WordPress site without any research first, but we're not going to call it UX. And we're going to make sure they know that this is not UX and that we are guessing or things like that. And this is web design and it's not UX. I hope that helps. Any other thoughts or questions? Oh, sorry, I got an email. I totally misunderstood what someone said. Okay, so don't forget that our concentric conference is next week. I know it is not fantastically timed for those of you, in time zones east of me. I know it's not a great time, but if you can make it, please do. It is, let's see, what are the times? I'm usually giving them in California times. It's 8 a.m. to noon. I don't know what that is for Australia. And I think it's 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. for me. That might almost work for some of you. But anyway, it's totally free. And we've got speakers all 3 days on different topics, different tracks, lots of stuff on accessibility, some stuff on diversity and inclusion, a whole range of stuff, some information architecture stuff. Not all of it's going to be recorded and offered later just because of the sensitivity of some of the diversity topics, but most things will be on the YouTube channel hopefully in June. So we hope people will come. It is completely free. Please only register once, and you are welcome when you register to choose one free mentoring session with one of our mentors. We're doing 15-minute speed mentoring. So feel free to grab one of those. That's deltacx.com/concentric. Any other questions? I'll put the countdown up and make everybody nervous that the time is running out to ask me a question today. Though again, I will be here in 8-ish hours doing this again if anybody happens to be awake or an insomniac. Everybody, drink more water. It's good for you. This is Office Hours. Ask me anything. Don't forget that you can subscribe. Usability test that subscribe button on YouTube. Make sure it works and ring that bell. And if you're over on YouTube, give us the empathetic like, because likes are so empathetic. And of course, you can join our Slack workspace, which is totally free. deltacx.link/join Slack will dump you right in there. And of course, we do have the tip jar, which is open 24/7, totally optional, and helps me buy delicious cheese. Today, I will be eating feta. What's everybody's favorite cheese? I don't think feta is my favorite cheese, but I will be eating it. My lighting's a little weird today. During the day, my lighting is weird. Nothing I can do about it. Because the room is so bright. Any other questions or follow-up questions to anything that was asked today? Don't forget, over on YouTube, hundreds of hours of stuff in the archives. Jump on over to the all the different playlists, and Office Hours playlist will have this and other ones like it. The live stream podcast episodes are usually one particular topic. Charlene says cheddar. That is good. We just ate some. We get it. Our cheddar here is from Germany. It was pretty good. Yeah, please everybody take a tour of the Delta CX YouTube channel. There are squillions of hours of content there, and they're arranged in different playlists that will help you hopefully more easily find what might interest you. You can also just search on YouTube. The search on YouTube is pretty robust. Just put Delta CX and then something you'd like to learn more about or get my opinion on, and chances are I've got a video on it. So try that out. That's always a good way to get your questions answered when I'm not here live. Also in Slack, we answer a lot of questions there and we help each other out. So that's another option as well. Oh, did my countdown end? I'm not wearing my headphones, so I don't know if the gong sounded. Okay, so if there aren't any questions, then I guess I will wind down for today and get this in the archives and into the Office Hours playlist, and I'll get ready to play us out of here. So I will see everybody in, what, just under 8 hours to do this all again, right? How's my math today? 8. I think it's just under 8. I go live at 6:30 p.m. Italy time. What time is that in India? Are everyone in India, are you 3.5 ahead of me or 4.5 ahead of me? Is it coming up on 2:30? 3:30? Friends in India, what time is it there? I just want to check so I don't say something silly about time zones. I can't remember. I should Google it. Google will tell me these things, but I thought you could all tell me these things too. Current time in India. Oh wait, I put it on my, here it is. I put it on my phone. I have a whole bunch of time zones on my phone. It is 2:20 p.m. in Mumbai. So that seems like 3.5. Okay, 3.5 for me. So 4.5 for you, Charlene. All right, now we know. So that means if it's 3.5, I do office hours at 10 p.m. India time. Works out great for some people who've put the kids to bed. Works out not great for other people who just want to go to sleep. Thank you, Krishna and Charlene, for helping me out with the time in India when I forgot I had already put that on my phone, my time zones screen. Who does this on their phone? Anybody else do a screen on their phone just for time zones? I do. So I'm going to play us out of here, but I will see everybody at 10 p.m. India time, 6:30 p.m. here in Central Europe. Everybody have a good day. Stay safe. Be warm wherever you are, and I'll catch you later.
Delta CX, available for CX and UX consulting, projects, and training. Contact us for a free consultation.